Apologies.
Hi.
I'm so sorry. I didn't understand what was exactly happening.
No,
in terms of
I was teaching a different class earlier, but it was
Yeah.
confusing because you guys also had your the what's it called? The time
time
change.
change.
So
Yeah,
the time
exactly.
we also had the time change.
So apologies for that. I'm gonna I actually have to be outside, so I'm gonna turn my camera off and just be in listen mode today.
Okay. Hopefully we'll have some more people come in a minute and we'll get started.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's just the two of us.
Uh-huh.
But hopefully not. A few people said they had a wedding or bat mitzvah or something else happening today. So we'll
Yeah.
see who makes it.
So if it's just the two of us, if you want to cancel and start, do next week, that's fine too.
I'm here. Hi, it's
Yay,
Shalani.
Shami's here. Yay, good.
I'm not feeling very well. I've got a head cold, but I'm just gonna stay offline. But sending you my love.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, go ahead. It's fine. I'd love for you to do it if you want, if you're okay with it.
Of course I want to do it.
Yeah.
All week to do it. Okay, so just give me 1 second here. Have the book and I'm all set. Okay. Excellent. All right, guys, there you are. Okay. So I am excited. Our people are here. I know we have a few people always come late. So also they'll be here soon. And I'm just finding where the page we left off is. In chapter 3.
I don't know if you want people to talk or if it's
Please, go ahead, you can talk.
I don't know if you've heard the breaking news from Russia. It's pretty bad.
I haven't, but we'll save that for when I check the news.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless
Sorry. No,
No,
I just wondered if we should say some to Tehillim as well.
let's definitely start with a parak of Tehillim. Someone also asked specifically, who's in our group, sons just went in, were just like called up again into the fighting front. And she asked that we dedicate our learning tonight in their names. So we will say let's say a parak of Tehillim, and we'll dedicate the class to them and to the health and safety of all Jews in Eretz Yisrael, out of Eretz Yisrael, the hostages, and every single one of our soldiers, especially Abraham, well, not especially, but in specifically for this class tonight, Abraham Yosef ben Tamara Gittel and Shmuel Levi ben Tamara Gittel. And we'll do one that everybody knows. I have it here. Done. Do you have a specific one you want to do?
I don't mind. I just think it's probably a good time. It's happening now and it's quite scary. So let's say Tehillim for everyone.
Absolutely. Shir Amalot Esa Enai El Hehari Ma'ayin Yavo Ezri. Ezri Me'im Adonai Oseh Shamayim Ba'aretz. Al Yiten Lamot Raglecha Al Yanum Shomrecha. Hine Lo Yanum Velo Yishan Shemei Yisrael. Adonai Shomrecha, Adonai Tzilcha, Al Yad Yaminecha, Lo Yimam Hashemesh, Lo Yakeka, V'Yareach B'Alayla. Adonai Shmor Tzedcha V'Oecha Me'ata Ve'ad Olam. And we'll do one more. And these are ones you guys could be saying at when you say Shema before you go to sleep. It's in every Siddur app as part of Kriyat Shema Lamita. This is one of my favorites. And when we say it, imagine that it doesn't matter what's happening outside, but God is like you're sitting in God's shade. He is like protecting you like a shield. He's standing in front of you like a shield. Yashev beseter elyon, besel shadai yiklonan. Omer ladonai machsi umesudasi Elohai evtach bo. Ki hu yitzilcha mipach yakush medevar havot evrato yatzach lach tachat kanpav techse. Sina v'sochera amiso. Lo tira mipachad laila mechitz ya'uf yomam. Midever be'ofel yeholech miketev yashut zaharayim. Yipol mitzadcha elech uribava miminecha elecha lo yigash. Rak be'enecha tabit. V'shilimut v'sha'im tireh. Ki ata Adonai machsi elyon samta me'onecha. And it's just a reminder of everything we're learning tonight. And everything that's going on state. Shlomit, if you want to chat to me privately, what you wanted to say, then we'll check it out and make sure we're not going to be triggering anybody. Because for some people it's bedtime and it's nighttime, and we don't want them to keep our Habitachon strong. Okay. I believe that we had just finished, that we were starting on page 98. Anybody here have their book and remembers that I'm correct, that we're starting on page 98?
Yeah, that's correct.
Excellent. Okay. So
Actually,
yes.
no,
Go ahead.
I thought it was 79.
Oh, 79. Okay, hold on. Oh, yeah. See, look, you're 79. Here's my bookmark. It was here. I couldn't find it. Yay. Okay, great.
Okay.
Human effort. Okay. So Shulamit, if you want to write it to me, you can write it to me in the privately in the chat to me. Okay. Human effort. We are on page 79. The fifth introduction addresses why, in contrast to animals whose needs are readily available to them, a person is required to make great efforts to obtain his livelihood and other needs. Now, what's really interesting is somebody sent me a book to read and give my opinion on, and if I want to promote it or not promote it, whatever. And it's a book about the mitzvah of taking care of your health. And on the first page of the introduction, he quotes Chovot HaLevavot, or one of these big Rebbeim and Gedolei Yisrael. I'll have to look it up because it's my first time going through his book, who quotes Chovot HaLevavot that every time they're talking about wealth, they're also talking about health. Why do we have to go to so much effort sometimes for our physical safety, Jewish people? Why do we have to go to so much effort sometimes for our physical health, doctors, right? Eating well, taking care of ourselves, doing emotional trauma release work right now. Why? Why does it have to be so difficult? Animals, literally, when they're afraid, they shake, and it comes naturally. It's built into their body exactly what to do when there's trauma, or exactly what to do when they want to go get food. They have the skills already. Okay. And they have, right, the food already they know exactly, their body is instinctual to exactly what to do. So in the fifth introduction, the person should clearly see that the completion of all matters that come to be in this world after its creation come to be in one of two ways. So there's only two ways that since God created the world, that things come into existence. Either they come solely from the decree of God and due to his desire that these things should immediately come into existence. And the second is that they come through means and intermediaries. So whoever we're worried about in the world, whatever bad guys we're worried about, and whatever good guys we're worried about or thinking about or grateful to, they are means and intermediaries. Either God directly, miraculously makes the thing happen, or God uses means and intermediaries. Some of those intermediaries are immediate, while some of them are remote. That means some are, this guy said or did this thing to me, or some of them are remote, political, global, economic, right? They're kind of remote from us, these things, but they impact us and our pocketbook and our safety and our emotional well-being every single day. All of them hasten to complete that which God decreed should be. And the way they appear, while God helps them to accomplish this. So every single thing that is happening for a reason. And we don't always understand what it is. And we almost never understand in the moment what it is, right? Because time plays things out. Okay, just mute yourself if you're not talking. So we just don't have the background noise. Okay. Let's see. We are on page 80 if you're following along. A person is required to know that while everything comes from God, there are things that God decreed should come immediately without any further action necessary. Now really think about your life and how many times have you needed a personal salvation? I was looking for a therapist after after my mother passed, and I was very concerned about the cost on top of the kids therapy and everything else. And I literally sent out a text to a few friends. Do any of you know of bereavement therapists? And someone sent me a link to a site that for Israeli English speakers gives free, specifically bereavement trauma therapy. Only. That's the only thing they do, and it's a non-for-profit. Sometimes it's immediate. You get exactly what you need exactly when you need it. And sometimes it's not. There are other things that God has decided should come into being through various means, actions, reactions, and an entire what looks to us like unconnected events. Page 81. An example of an immediate cause would be the drawing of water from the depths of the earth by means of a pulley with a jug tied to it that draws the water out of the well. The remote cause is the person who tied the animal to the rope that is attached to the vessel, that's attached to the rope, that pulls, that then goes down, gets the water, and then brings it up to the surface. And there's a million causes in between. There's every single muscle that had to move properly in the animal. There's the person who had to create the rope, who had to tie the rope to the well, right? Like that you could go into this immediate, amazing sequence of events that had to happen that we don't think about. Oh, I wanted to get water out of the well. They're the animal, the wheels that move each other, the rope, and all of these things that God determined should be each and every single little intermediary should come to be. Similarly for other actions that come to be, they do not come as a result of people or through any other entity. Rather, they exist due to the decree of God only and his preparation for the means through which the action will be completed. God has counted and put into place all the causes. Even if one of them were to be lacking, the end result would not come into being. God is the one who pulls all the strings. God is the one who pulls all the strings. That alarm, by the way, is I have alarms set throughout my day with positive messages. That one said, "You are supported. You did a good job today." I find it really helpful nowadays to be sending myself positive messaging and like little funny jokes like, okay, right now, dance for 1 minute and drink some water or different things just to kind of, instead of only being negatively triggered, they call them glimmers, like trigger yourself positively throughout the day. Sorry for that distraction. Okay. 82. As it says, who is great counsel and masters carrying it out, for it was something brought about by the Lord, meaning that, and this is a malachi, meaning that we always want to give credit to the intermediaries, good and bad. But we know every single thing God decreed is for the ultimate best good of humanity, and specifically of the Jewish people, and is going to bring about our ultimate redemption and healing of the entire world. Beautiful, 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 uplifting for the spirit. I love it. Proof that human intervention is often needed. When we contemplate a person's needs and how he's required to engage in various means and exert himself in order to obtain his needs, we clearly observe that this is the case. That without these intermediaries, without means, the matter won't come into being. If you want to eat healthy, you have to go to the grocery store. You have to buy the food. You have to have the job to have the money to buy the food. You got to get the food home. You have to unpack the food. You got to wash the food. You got to cut or prepare or cook the food in some way. You have to get it to the table. Your whole digestive system has to be working in order to get any nutrition out of that food. There's a lot of intermediaries, and it's obvious that we need those things because God likes to work in a natural way. For when someone eats food, even if the food is placed in front of him in a state already fit to eat, if you don't even put the effort in to eat it by raising it to your mouth and chewing, and you won't get full and satisfied. Similarly, someone who is thirsty and is in need of water right? They say you can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. We have to take action. We have to say to him, like we just did, we have to do acts of kindness. We have to allow ourselves to feel joy amidst feeling such pain. We have to allow ourselves to feel uplifted when we go somewhere, or excited by learning something new, or spiritually touched by our kids or a gift from a friend. All the more so is effort necessary if the food is not ready for him to eat. So if you see that nobody came and made you dinner, you are obligated to put in the effort to go make yourself dinner. So right now, if you don't see the salvation at hand, you have an obligation to go and do something beautiful. Give somebody love in some way, in some form, and allow yourself to receive love in some way, in some form. You either have to grind it or knead it or bake the dough, go to the grocery store, open the package, put it in the microwave, right? More exertion than this will be necessary, and it'll be even more difficult if he needs to buy it and prepare it as well. For now, he also has to have the money with which to buy the food, and even more great exertion is needed in order to get the money. I can tell you this right now, everyone's raising money, so the army will have the things that they need and the food that they need and all the things, right? They could have just had it, but no, we are exerting effort, which is all wonderful because we're doing God's will. The reason for human effort. Having elaborated on the fact that a person is often required to exert himself in order to obtain his livelihood, his salvation, his health, the author continues to explain why it is good. Why is it a gift that it should be this way? Why did he not orchestrate that all our needs would just be readily available to us? There are two reasons why the Creator obligated a person to make efforts to pursue and search out a means of livelihood. If you don't have livelihood and you have no food in your house, right, then you get to participate in mitzvahs by being a receiver. And that's also a beautiful thing because you allow someone else to be a giver. And that's something we all need to remember, whether we need love or we need affection or we need food right now, or we need money or we need clothing. If you are on the taking, receiving side right now, you are part of the process of someone else getting to the mitzvah, which brings all of us closer to the final redemption. And if you are trying to get a job or you're working hard and you have the money and you get to give, you are part of, at every step of the way, bringing about the final redemption. The first reason is that God in his wisdom decided to test the person as to whether he will choose to serve God or rebel against him. He tested him in a matter through which the path he will choose will be evident. God did this by causing a person to be needy and lacking that which is outside him: food, drink, clothing, shelter, relationships, safety. He then instructed a person to obtain them in a kosher and appropriate way. That he should not work on Shabbos, and that he should work during the week. That he should eat this food and not that food. That he should move his body, that he should not be sedentary all the time. We were instructed to pursue the means through which to obtain our livelihood and other needs. At the same time, we were given the Torah, which tells us what's allowed and what's permitted. The test isn't to go without. The test is how you pursue getting your needs met. Those things that the Creator decreed that a person will obtain, he will obtain as a result of God making available all the means that he requires. So our victory is going to come because God made all of the vests available, right? To all the guns available, made them work at the right time and get into the right hand of the right person through the right thing. I made the right bad guy be at the right spot at the right time, making those choices. It's all working together on divine synchronicity. All the things that God wants him to have, he'll have. Your test is how you go about getting it. If you're meant to have it, you're going to have it. So you don't have to worry about stealing. We don't have to worry about going about our victory or going about our health in a way that would compromise our values. Because what we're going to have, we're going to have. And if we're not meant to have it because it wouldn't be good for us, then it doesn't matter how much effort we put in or how many inappropriate ways we try to accomplish it, we're never going to have that. It's going to be withheld from him. As a result, it will become clear that if he wishes to serve God or disobey him, that's the test, based on his choice of the means with which he obtains his needs. On account of this, he will either be rewarded or punished, even if he did not end up obtaining that which he tried to obtain. Because the whole point is not us getting our needs met. God is going to take care of us. We have bitachon. Whatever you need, it's already coming to you. The question is, are you going to pursue it in an appropriate, loving, and open-hearted way? Are we going to slip into fear and anger and scarcity and resentment and all the negative behaviors and do things that are inappropriate? In which case, we'll have the opportunity to, through consequences, mend our ways and improve, or we will be given even greater reward. The second reason why God deemed that people should be required to exert effort and employ various means to obtain their livelihood is that a person did not need to exert effort to pursue and search for the means of sustenance. He would rebel and pursue that which is forbidden, and he would not heed his obligations toward God in exchange for the kindness of God toward him. Okay? How do we know this? Idle hands are the devil's playthings, right? When we have no reason to get up and go to work, how many of us would gain the expertise that we had if we never had to wonder about if there will be enough? Why would we ever learn Torah and work on our bitachon, right? All of these things, having needs unmet is what pushes us to go achieve, because if everything was at our door, we wouldn't go and become anything. We wouldn't use our energy to transform ourselves. It's proven through the course of human history and through the Bible. We see it again and again and again. When everything was handed to them, nobody made such good decisions. We need that effort to put in to improve ourselves, to strive, to achieve, and that's a need that's built in us as a kindness. Both verses identify indulging material pleasures as something that causes people to forsake Torah and mitzvot. Okay? In this book that I'm reading, where it quotes Chovot HaLevavot and many other Jewish texts and Gemaras and all kinds of things, he talks again and again how the greatest Jewish thought leaders practiced self-restraint when it came to food specifically. And this is so appropriate right now. Food is an easy, small thing that we can make tiny actions of self-restraint around. Okay, I'm feeling emotional. Someone brought me cookies. I'm going to eat one cookie. I know I could eat 7 cookies, right? But I'm going to send those 7 cookies out to someone else. I don't need to consume them and overconsume and overconsume and overconsume. And because food is, he says, is like the #1 challenge today, because it is so readily available and it is created and Instagrammed and reeled and Pinterested to be so desirable that practicing self-restraint on our food is a really great way to practice emotional management and to practice self-restraint and all the other areas of our interpersonal relationships, to practice bitachon. I have enough. The cookies will be there later. In a similar vein, our rabbis of blessed memory said, Torah study goes well with derech eretz, because the toil of both will make misdeeds scarce, right? If you work on your character traits and you work on increasing your education, you really are not going to have much time to get yourself into trouble. Any Torah study, any intellectual advancement that isn't accompanied by advancement in your character traits, in the end, is still going to lead to more mistakes. And we see that again and again in humanity, right? Where people who are the smartest and the most advanced can do the most horrible things. It has to come with working on our character traits, which is what all of us are doing right now. And I'm talking to myself as much as you guys. Okay. In a similar vein, they say all the more so someone will rebel if he lacks both of these. He doesn't work on his mind and he doesn't work on his character traits and pays no heed to either of them. It is due to the loving compassion of our Creator that he made us preoccupied with eating healthy and having enough food on the table for our family and making sure all of the soldiers and saying our Tehillim and doing things so that we're using our time in pursuit of working on our own self and working on the greater good, because he wants to reward us. He just wants to say, amazing job here, let me reward you, let me reward you, let me reward you. Not only here, but also in the world to come. So that he will have no time to seek out that which he does not need, and that he will not, things that he can't even understand are good or bad for him. And so we shouldn't waste time worrying about the beginning of creation or what exactly the end of the world will look like. We need to focus on working on our character traits. We need to work on understanding God's, what God wants from me right now. He wants me to be happy, find happiness even in pain. He wants me to feel compassion and empathy for other people and reach out and do good things for myself and my family and my loved ones. He wants me to receive love and receive good things and receive what I need from others as much as he wants me to be given. Okay. We are on 89 now. The righteous person when man does not need to toil. Anybody have questions or thoughts on what we just went through? It could not be more timely to me. Anything that sat with you, anything that was confusing, anything that just really was an aha moment that you want to share? Okay. Okay, we have 15 more minutes. The righteous person when man does not need to toil. The author continues by saying that in instances when there are two aforementioned reasons do not apply, God will ensure that the person will not require effort to meet his needs. If a person strengthens himself in the service of God, choosing to be fearful of him rather than other people, rather than outside circumstances. And remember, when we say fear, fear is a poor English translation. We're talking about awe, of standing before constantly in this beautiful protective shadow of the creator of everything, the source of all, the source of infinite possibility, infinite creation, infinite everything. It's humbling. It's awe-inspiring. It's fear, but it's not really fear. It could be fear. Okay. And he relies on him with regard to Torah, with regard to worldly matters. Additionally, he turns away from inappropriate character traits and instead strives towards good character traits. And he does not rebel God even at times when he is at rest from his stresses. And he does not turn towards leisure. Rather, he involves himself in the service of God. Do not be swayed by his evil inclination or the indulgences of this world. Then in turn, such a person will be relieved of the need to exert himself. Now, does that kind of make sense? If the whole reason that we exert ourselves is so we don't waste every precious second we have in the world, collecting hobbies that don't serve any purpose, you can think of somebody in your sphere of existence, whether they were a character in a book or a television or whatever, who had no children, who had all the money in the world, just had very many expensive hobbies and really was not producing any good in the world, right? That's what he means by leisure. He's not talking about taking a break. He's not talking about what we call the difference between leisure and restoration, taking a break. It's okay to play a game, to do some sports. We're not saying anything that you can't rest and restore yourself. We're talking about leisure for the sake of leisure that serves no purpose. It doesn't support relationships. It's not quality time with anybody. It's just for nothing. And it does nothing. It teaches you nothing. Okay? Partying, live life and tomorrow you'll die. Pleasure for its own sake. So if a person uses all this time to work on all the things that we go to work on, his character traits, his Torah learning, his observance, his relationships with other people, then no, God's not going to make him work as hard. because he's already doing the work he's supposed to be doing. To me, it makes perfect sense. If you have a question or that doesn't make sense, the logic of it doesn't make sense to you, please ask it because it's a really important point. When you're doing what you're supposed to be doing with your time, really don't worry if you're not working more, okay? If you are doing what you are supposed to be doing with your time and you didn't send out another email or you didn't make that Zoom or you didn't put another 2 hours on the clock and you spent those 2 hours doing something important for your character, for your physical health. In this book, even quotes 2 rabbis who used to take long walks every single day, including on Yom Kippur when they were fasting. And their students asked them, why are you taking a long walk on Yom Kippur? And he said, I have a mitzvah. I take a walk every single day for an hour in order to keep the mitzvah of guarding my health. Why would I not guard my health today? Today, it's also a mitzvah. So he took that kind of attitude. Whatever you're doing it in service of God, whether it's eating or drinking or making love or being with your spouse or being with your kids. There's a greater contribution and service that's fun, that's joyful, that's, oh my gosh, this is the work I get to do in the world. I get to pray and it changes things on the ground in a war. That's insane. That's amazing. Wow. It doesn't always have to be so heavy. Working on your character traits can be fun. I know here, it's sometimes when we use this kind of old language, it sounds really heavy. But working on being a nicer person, on being a little bit more friendly, on checking in with other people and allowing yourself to be emotionally vulnerable and checked in on, it's like, not only did God ask us to do these things, but he made them pleasurable, fun. It can be fun to eat beautiful vegetables, and it can be delicious, and it can be nice and fun to drink cups of tea. And it can even be pleasurable to sit in a group of women and cry together and pray together and feel the collective power of sisterhood. There's no extra credit for being miserable. In fact, there's extra credit for being joyful. We're on page 90. For the 2 reasons mentioned above regarding why a person is required to make efforts to provide himself is the purpose of the testing of man to see whether or not he will choose permitted or forbidden ways of meeting his needs. And so a person will not rebel due to the goodness that he enjoys, so then those tests doesn't apply to him. Instead, he will be sustained without exertion or hard work according to his needs and his sustenance. The righteous suffer and the wicked prosper. Oh boy. Here's something I want to say before we enter this section. He is not telling you that bad things happen to you or to somebody else, or good things happen to some other bad person you know because of this specific reason. He is saying from the beginning, okay, that we know it is a fact in the world that only God understands that there are righteous people who don't always seem to have their needs met, or only after a lot of hard work do they get their needs met. And we find many not righteous people, many outright sinners who seem to have their means handed to them. They get everything they want with ease, okay, and lead good and pleasant lives. How can this be with everything we said before? Okay, we will respond by saying that pious people, more pious and prophets closer to God than us, have pondered this question and have discussed it at length. That is not what we will be discussing. What we are going to do is very clearly give some very well-known things that we can say to ourselves and that we should specifically look to affirm when they come out. And I'll give you an example. On Shabbat, we were hearing a story about a gang, like a, shooting, looting, like a gang that was the first people who drove out to the Israeli soldiers, brought them guns, all of their bulletproof vests. You might ask yourself, what was this gang gonna do with all those guns and all that money and all those bulletproof vests that they had? We don't know. Okay, they're not the criminals. but they were in their possession just so that in the moment that the soldiers needed them, they were there. Okay? We don't know why evil people have money at certain times, and he's going to give us some funny and some not funny reasons. And we don't know why good people sometimes suffer more than we think they should have. Okay? Or why they seem to struggle, or why we struggle and we are good people. Okay? And why also sometimes we have the potential to do something. Okay? So remember, these are things that we can say to ourselves and affirm when we see them happen, but we are in no way capable of answering the question why good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. It is bigger than us and is bigger than this class. Okay. So we're skipping the quotes and we're going to, and the reason he's giving all his quotes is to tell you this is a legit question and it has much discussion, but it should not take away for your bitachon because it has an answer. Okay. So now, why would righteous people suffer and wicked people prosper? Yet while the prophet asked this question, they do not offer a response that explains this reason. That is because a reason that is particular to each person is different. There is a different and unique reason of specific divine providence to every single individual as to why this specific evil person has money and ease, and why this specific righteous person in this moment, at this exact time, and in this exact way might be suffering. So we should calm ourselves down. This isn't general black and white, negative or positive energy in the world. No, this is lovingly detailed from the creator of the whole universe, who recreates the world at every moment, as specific reasons that are different in every single case, like 1,000% different, incomparably different. So the reason why this guy is having this trial is completely different why this guy is having this trial. Okay? So why are some reasons why the righteous might be suffering? Okay. And again, I mean, this could not be more relevant. So again, we don't ever want to judge other people. We don't know. We can't ever think about other people. We can think about ourselves and our own suffering. Nonetheless, I've seen the need to explain this matter, why some righteous people suffer and some wicked people prosper in such a manner that the explanation should be teeny-weeny glimmers of what could be the ideas. I will say that the reason why the righteous person's livelihood is withheld from him until he exerts himself to obtain it and is tested as follows. It could be that a sin he previously committed and he should have been punished, and instead he has to put a little more effort in. And remember, we said the effort doesn't always have to be miserable. I mean, I love what I do. It is work, but I love what I do. And if you're doing something you love, yes, you may have to have more expense, or have to take on an extra client, or have to do more paperwork, or have to pay more taxes, or whatever it is, but it doesn't always have to be miserable. Okay. I will say that the reason that maybe he has to do more work and it's taking care of a sin so that he never needs to be punished later. He can have this punishment as he has to do a little bit more work. Okay, no big deal. Very kind. Although it seems to be no reason why a righteous person should be suffering, it's possible that he has a previous sin for which he wasn't punished or of which he didn't do tshuva fully. There are righteous people who suffer in exchange for increased reward in the world to come. There are people who spend extra time in the gym because they're not content with a certain base level of fitness. They want to be cut. There are people who would choose to put in a little more effort in this world on their character traits, on their work, so that they would merit a greater body in the world to come. Sometimes God decides to give people a greater reward than they deserve. And so he causes them to have to put more effort, to have to suffer a little bit in this world in order to be able to reward them even more greatly, right? Because when you're tested and it's hard and you do it anyway, I mean, like, wow, the triumph, the joy, the reward is tenfold. In some instances, the righteous person's suffering is not a form of punishment at all. Rather, it's a display of God's incredible love towards that person. There are some righteous people who suffer to show other people the level of their tolerance of suffering and his good demeanor in the service of his creator, like Job. There are some people who suffer because they take it for the team, and the fact that they still do mitzvot and they still believe in God humbles all the rest of us and forces us to examine ourselves more carefully and our character traits. I can think of somebody who I just look up to her so much, and she's had so much challenges in her life, and literally, like, it just inspires me to always try to be a better person, because if she can do this despite everything she's going through, like, wow, how do I want to step up in my life? There are some righteous people, again, and that doesn't mean that's why, it's just what we can take from it. There are some righteous people who suffer due to the wickedness of the people of their generation, and God tests them with poverty or illness to demonstrate to others his piety and service of God. Also, as a test to other people that they shouldn't be like, well, ooh, this guy is sinning and he's making a lot of money, and this guy is doing mitzvot and he's not making a lot of money. I'm going to go follow that guy and sin. You know, like, it's also a test for people around him. This verse is discussing the times of Mashiach, who will endure suffering as a result of the sins of the people of his generation. And just as Mashiach suffers for their sins, the righteous suffers for the sins of his generation. Okay? Meaning that the suffering that he endures can cause tshuva in all of the sins of the people in his generation. Right? That someone else's suffering could make you want to do things differently. I think we could all relate how that could be a thing. There are some righteous people who suffer because although righteousness in their private lives, they don't really help other people. It's all very selfish. Like, I take care of me. I make sure I'm good with God. I take care of me. But they don't go around protesting other evil out there in the world, the sins of other people. So we can see right now, there are people who are like, well, I know what's right or wrong, so I don't need to speak out against evil. Okay. And sometimes they have to go through more hardship because of that. As we know the story of Eli, the high priest, and his son. So Eli was the high priest, and he had two sons, and they were both very important priests, and they took advantage of the people. And his entire family, because he didn't step up and remove them from power, he and them and every single generation from them forever of Kohanim is cursed to have hardship when it comes to financial matters. Crazy, right? Because otherwise Kohanim supposedly have a blessing to have abundance in financial matters. Okay, reasons why the wicked prosper. Okay, before we go into reasons why the wicked prosper, obviously we have no answers. Okay, but does anybody have anything they want to share on the righteous suffering? Anything you want to get off your chest? Anything you want to ask? Anything you want to say? Anything you want to share? It's a big triggering issue, no doubt about it. So if anybody has anything they want to add or say, before we move on to the wicked people, feel free. Okay.
I was just gonna say, I always feel like, when you see the righteous suffer, that we have the ability or the chance to learn the most from them, because you can see, how they, like you said about your friend, how they overcome, those trials and tribulations. And, you can easily go to, oh, poor them, why do they have to suffer? And it's just like, no, God gave them this particular set of circumstances. I think sometimes to have them teach others in their lives and to spread more. I don't know. I just see it as a
Right.
larger.
It's so big. It's
yeah.
so big.
Yeah. It is. It really is.
Yeah. What's up?
Just saying hi. Yeah, it's a difficult one. And I take a class on Shaar Bitachon, sorry for my croaky voice. And we did this subject quite recently. And I don't know what came to me was in my own life, I can't really share for other people because you can never tell somebody else, oh, this happened to you, because that's just not a nice thing to say and it's not respectful. But
And we
in my
can't help.
life, you know, but in my own life, when I've gone through stuff, and I can just give very recent examples of a disastrous breakup, COVID, being stuck on my own, almost losing my sister, being very afraid about the life of my daughter who was about to deliver just in the middle of the height of the pandemic. And all these things, and being on lockdown, and my son's engagement breaking 2 weeks before his wedding, all at the same time. It was a lot. And now when I look back, I think, my goodness, that breakup taught me patterns about codependency and narcissism that I didn't understand. It sent me on my journey to become a life coach, which I am now. I would never be able to help others in the position without having been through what I went through. I talked my friend into feeling safe when she was in Turkey during the earthquakes. She was holding her friend's hand on a bed, and their building was swaying, and she said, "Shulamit, I feel safe, and thank you." Like, like her building was swaying, and I was almost crying. I felt like, oh my God, this stuff works. But I would never have been able to do that if I didn't understand how to discover the inner safety, the inner child. And I sometimes think about it this way, like, and also the stuff during COVID is helping me now, because here I am, like, not feeling massively triggered when I would have been very anxious. I'm the daughter of Holocaust survivors. There's not many people my age that can say that. I was the youngest, surprise, daughter to my mom, who had miscarriages after miscarriages for 11 years and then had me. So I was born like way after the rest of my family. I just popped out there. And I'm called Shulamit because I was born after the 6 Day War. There are so many things that make sense now that didn't make sense then. And not to say I wish anything that I'd been through had happened. Of course not. I didn't want to go through any of those things. I went through it kicking and screaming. But now I feel really strong. I feel like I can be a light for others. And I feel like sometimes the darkness is, right? You can't see the stars in the day. So you need to, when you see only darkness around you, you need to realize, why did God put you here? Because you freaking are the light. Excuse my French. You are that light. Call it forward. There is something in you that God wanted you to be here for. So when I feel panic and stress, I think, okay. I calm myself down with a breath and all the things. But then I think, like, what am I expected to do here? Like, how can I bring it? And even if that's for myself, like you say, to go for a walk and soothe myself, my own somatic nervous system. And I think about that movie, actually. I never saw it, but I love the idea of it, The Karate Kid.
Mm.
So this Japanese guy, I think he's Japanese or Korean, and he teaches this kid karate, but he doesn't teach him karate moves. He teaches him how to wash the car, and he makes him go this way and that way with his hands. And this kid is like, this man is driving me mad. But in the end, his reaction are like, oh, I know exactly what to do in the situation. So suffering brings forth our strengths if we know why we're here, and we don't look at the what, why me, but we think, what am I supposed to do? There's an answer there somewhere. We just need to find it and trust that it's there.
I started a beautiful book yesterday I started it, called The Revolutionary Trauma Release Process, Transcend Your Toughest Times, by David Baricelli, PhD, and Dr. Robert Scare, MD. And this guy also, he went to countries all around the world helping people with trauma. And he had this concept, which is exactly Bitachon, of, especially his specialty was group trauma, where, huge groups of people, earthquakes, genocide, all the Holocaust survivors. He worked in Israel, he worked with Palestinians, like huge amounts of people who experience trauma together at the same time. And he truly believes, I'm in chapter 8 of like many chapters, but the biggie believes that the suffering and the trauma is in order to release transformation, and that within the body that experiences trauma is within us the ability to transform and the ability to give birth to new versions of ourselves that are much greater than we ever could have become had we not gone through that thing on a national level and on a personal level.
Yeah.
And I found that even in the midst of trauma to be very comforting that this is a purpose. This
Yeah.
has a purpose. It's for my good, whether or not I see it. So stop
Yeah.
resisting and start doing whatever you need to do.
Yeah, for sure. I do get that much more now than I ever did. And I do think that Hamas have pushed our nation to a point where, so for example, I've got a nephew who was only born with one kidney and he almost lost the other one. And first his brother had to give him a kidney transplant, and then his mum had to give him a kidney, my sister-in-law had to give him a kidney transplant because they couldn't find any other donors. So the whole family went through all this. And then my nephew, who almost died so many times, he's not afraid of anything. He's the one who'll go bungee jumping, he'll jump off cliffs. He went spearfishing in God knows where, Mauritius. He went hunting with native. He doesn't care. He basically does. He's not afraid of anything. And I think it's because he almost died that he's not afraid of anything. And I think it's also like Hamas have pushed us to the edge of, okay, we've seen so much now. What are you going to do to us now? So we're like stronger. We're like, no, we're not gonna. I feel like all of us are standing up for ourselves as Jews like we've never done before. We're not running away like we were in the Holocaust. We're shouting back, we're turning around, we're facing our enemy. And actually, all those hundreds of thousands of people marching in the middle of London, like in my city, I was here before these people where they came from, God knows where, don't know why. And I'm like, do you know what? It would have made me shake in my bed a few years ago. But now I'm like, I'm laughing. I'm like, why are you shouting and screaming? What are you afraid of that makes you shout and scream so much? You must be deeply insecure to need to behave like that. And it doesn't scare me. I can face them down. I'm not saying I'd be very happy if they came storming in here. I'd probably cry, but I'm not afraid.
And that's because we know that they're in the
Yeah.
end means and agents of whatever it is that we need to do as a nation. And, whatever is going to happen, it's going to be so that we do what we need to do, and that we become who we're meant to become. And I think that's a perfect place to end today. And we will continue next week. So keep an eye on if you guys change your clocks wherever you are in the world. This was at the same time as it always is in Israel, and it will continue to be at the same time in Israel. So use Google and just wherever you are in the world, keep checking in as till everybody changes their clocks. Thank you guys so much for coming and have an incredible week.
This was
Thank you.
so nice. Thank you, Lily.
Bye.
Stay safe. Be well.
You too.